Welcome to the Rewilded Human podcast, where Dr. Lucille and Lynn will tackle your most difficult and intimate questions with candor, tough love, and a little dash of humor. In today's episode,
we think we're so connected because we find like-minded people, or we're following like-minded people, and we think like they're part of our family. Meanwhile, they don't even know that we exist, so maybe we feel connected to them, but we are so disconnected from the people around us. It's so sad.
When we use these techniques, especially self-grounding, you can be surprised by how you can make connections with people that you never expected you would. People will drop everything and start talking to you. It's really amazing,
Absolutely.
and a lot of people think that's cringy. Oh, isn't that a bit manipulative? You go around complimenting people. But if it's a genuine compliment, oh my goodness, people are hungry.
People are sick of being controlled by technology.
Yes.
I'm seeing libraries or like these cafes where everybody's disconnecting and reading books instead, and or talking to each other instead. So I think there's going to be a much bigger movement in this direction as well, because I think ultimately we need human connection in order to thrive.
Welcome back, everybody. We are at episode number 51, is it? My goodness, with the Rewilded Human podcast. I'm Dr. Lucille. I'm a holistic psychiatrist and psychotherapist. And this is my beautiful podcast partner and partner in crime, Lynn Hardy, who's a naturopath and a nutritionist. And we are thrilled today to address an entire episode around one question that came through social media to us, because this is so important to so many people out there these days. So we're gonna chat about this for the entire episode, and I'm sure you're gonna love it. So let me just read to you what the social media follower sent us. So here it is. Perhaps you might have some helpful tips for people to make new friends and find compatible or meaningful connections. In modern society, too many people are suffering silently and are quite isolated from others. For some people, it's not even the lack of friends, it's the lack of deep and meaningful connections in their life that go beyond the surface, where they can really be their true self in a safe space and talk about their existence or journey or anything and everything. Perhaps you could do an episode to help the collective learn how to deepen their connections with others or something related to this. It's very beneficial for souls to connect with each other, but there doesn't seem to be a tremendous amount of content out there encouraging people to have deep and meaningful conversations with others, which can be extremely supportive, healing, and help people to feel more connected and better overall. So that's a brilliant idea for our discussion today. And thank you, whoever you are who submitted this, because it is so relevant these days. Wouldn't you say so, Lynn?
Very relevant. We are more connected than ever before, and yet we are more isolated and lonelier than ever before.
So true. I think we would both agree, Lynn, that things have really gotten completely shattered with relationships over the last, 3 or 4 years?
4 years. I don't know what happened 4 years ago exactly, but something happened that messed everything up.
Yeah, everything just got turned right around. And it made it actually dangerous to be genuine with people. I was conversing with somebody online, one of my followers the other day, how we've kind of had to learn how to use coded language to figure out who might be like-minded, because you simply no longer can come right out and state your point of view. You can't be that authentic anymore. It's very, very sad, because at the same time, we have seen such a, shall I say the word, P word, pandemic of loneliness.
Yes.
It's especially damaging to the youth of our society who, have not had much of a chance to just grow up normally and socialize the way other generations have.
Yeah.
And then we also have all the people, like, you know, from young adults up to elderly people who lost a lot of friends, lost loved ones, either through death or just rifts, disagreements, and have never been able to come back from that. So this is a time that's ripe for those people like yourself, bless you for doing this, who are intent on trying to create deep, meaningful human relationships again. I think we all need to remember we have a choice in this. We have a choice to either go along with the program of separating all of us from one another and getting us more connected with our devices,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or we try to figure out how to make those deep, heartfelt connections again. Anyway, that's my preamble, but I think it's a very, very important problem. Some people don't see it as a problem at all. I don't know about you, Lynn, but if you go to a restaurant or a coffee shop and you see like maybe a whole family seated at a table and they're all on their phones.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Everywhere.
Yeah.
And walking
Yeah.
on the street and, on the beach.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's this place where I go swimming and we call it a river. It's like this artificial river and pools and everything, but it's seawater. It's really nice. And it's students that run the whole place. So there's like, I don't know, 20, 30 students working there. So as you walk in, you pay your £1 to get in. And the students are sitting at this huge table all the way, even inside the reception, one takes your money and the rest are all sitting there and in the table outside. And all of them are constantly just on their phones. I never see them communicating to each other. Now imagine this is like a dream job, being on the beach all summer with, with your friends, and all of them are they're probably chatting to each other on their phones.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, how sad is that? But yeah, you see the families and everyone, and we think we're so connected because okay, we find like-minded people or we're following like-minded people and we think like they're part of our family. Meanwhile, they don't even know that we exist. So maybe we feel connected to them, but we are so disconnected from the people around us. It's so sad.
It is very sad. And you also notice that the conversations you have online, they don't have the same depth
No.
as a conversation face to face.
Yeah.
You are interfacing through text.
Mm-hmm.
And text cannot fully encompass the entire range of emotion and energetic expression that happens in a real conversation with another human being. You can't so much feel a person's heart.
No.
You can't express your heart in the same way. It really is diminishing us as a species, I think.
And there's so many misunderstandings through text because
absolutely
you're not seeing the person face to face. But I think even on Zoom, it's not the same as being in person, where you're energetically right there with the other person. I mean, nothing can replace face to face, but it seems like we've replaced face to face completely. And through the pandemic, they pushed us into this digital world where, well, you don't need to meet your friends, talk to them on Zoom. You don't need to see your doctor, talk to him on Zoom. It's like Zoom replaced everything. And of course, FaceTime and WhatsApp and all of that stuff. And they pushed us so much more into this digital world. And we became so much more disconnected. And also we've talked about this before in previous episodes, but the pandemic also brought on this great divide between people, right? And then of course now the whole politics, another divide, and then the whole woke culture and all this stuff and everything else, another divide, another divide, another divide. By the time you get to the end, it's like my husband and I often talk about this, and we're like, we're the only two left. Like there's nobody left to talk to.
I know.
Like we're the only ones that think like this. Nobody else gets what we're saying.
I know. And it's so important when you get down to that realization that it's important to have a tribe, even a small one, that will support you, because it is hard in this world when there's so many differing opinions, differing views, people willing to, basically go to war over, social media with one another.
I know.
Over differing opinions.
Yeah, it's insane.
It's really insane. So you do need that tribe. And of course, you do not need everybody in your tribe to 100% agree with everything you say or do.
Yeah.
But you do need to feel like they have your back. You do need to feel like that they wouldn't betray you, that they still respect and love you, even if you're not 100% in line with them. And it helps your own growth. You know, it helps you to stay in your own wisdom. It should support you in being able to find your truth and stay, you know, in harmony with your truth without having to feel like you have to kowtow to the group think, right?
Yeah. But your
So
core values have to be aligned. Don't you find that? Like for now, for strong friendships, groups,
Sure.
core values must be aligned, even in relationships. Like I think we've come to this point, this breaking point in the world where even relationships, like people are just on totally different ends of the spectrum and it just doesn't work. So I mean, now when I'm looking for friendships, you know, it's not that they have to agree with me on everything, but on the big things, if they don't agree with me and they're completely on the other side, I have nothing to say to them. I'm not going to convince them. They're not going to convince me. And it's just a waste of energy and a waste of time. And I'd rather be alone. Don't you find also, Lucille, and I'm sure you've seen this, I don't know if you see this with your patients, but with the people around you, people have gotten angrier. They've gotten more bitter. They've gotten more confrontational. They, you know, even like with your close friends, it's like people are bickering and they're like picking at you and they're, you know, they're impatient and it's just everything's changed.
It has definitely changed. People are much more reactive. You're right.
Yeah,
and a lot of it is angry react. One of the answers to this question of making friends is you're constantly having to work on yourself to keep yourself from getting dysregulated, to keep yourself reasonably calm, collected, to be able to stay in observer mode. You know, if something goes wrong in a conversation, that rather than fly off the handle and start fighting, that you can just stand back for just a second and say, wow, what's gone wrong here? And not get into the fight. You know, not get into the fight. Or simply somebody says something and you are about to take offense, and then you stop yourself and you say, wait a minute, let me just check this out. We have to practice these techniques of constantly calming ourselves down, breathing, taking a moment to reflect. What did I think I heard? Is that really what that person meant to say? And then you learn techniques of how to ask clarifying questions.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, I thought I heard you say this, but is that what you really said, or is that what you really meant? When we use these techniques, especially self-grounding, you can be surprised by how you can make connections with people that you never expected you would.
Really?
You know, yeah, absolutely. Because remember, all of us are walking around with a certain superficial appearance to fit in, right? I have had people walk into my offices, just, you know, it's commonplace. They walk into my office and they look a certain way. They look very conservative. They look like they've never heard a conspiracy theory in their entire lives. They're so on the level, you know, everything, you know, maybe they're an accountant, a copy editor or something, whatever.
Yeah.
And then you start talking to them and you realize they're passionate about learning about Bigfoot. Or, you know, they absolutely, their most favorite activity is to go out on expeditions into the woods looking for Bigfoot.
No way. How funny is that?
Yeah. No, it's true. And people will hide themselves, all the stuff that's, you know, going to look weird. They hide themselves behind a veneer of normal. They want to look normal. So I would never assume things about people just from outward appearance, unless, you know, they're waving a flag and they've got a t-shirt that declares their political stand, right?
We never walked on the moon.
Yes, right. So, you know, so one thing is always to be in command of yourself enough that you can tolerate talking to people, not getting triggered yourself, and just remaining curious. Non-judgmental, just kind of curious.
Yeah.
And you will learn after a little while of talking to people whether they're your cup of tea or they're not. But at least you gave it a try, right?
Yeah.
At least you gave it
Absolutely.
a try.
No, that's a really good idea to stay open, because maybe you have
Yeah.
people already in your circle that you could get closer to if you give them a
Yeah.
chance.
Yeah. Yeah. There were people that I'd met prior to the pandemic that I liked them and they were, fine and
Yeah.
dandy, but I never was drawn to be closer to them.
Yeah.
And then as time went on, and I heard things they said, I saw what they put out on social media or whatever, and I realized, we have a lot more in common
Yeah. You're
than
my
I ever
bestie. You're my bestie.
You're
I
my
know.
bestie. I didn't
Yeah.
know. I had no idea you were my bestie.
Yeah,
So different times bring out different,
they do.
let's say, revelations about people that you hadn't, who you might have discounted years ago.
Yeah, it's true. And you're like, you
Yeah.
feel, and it's so funny because now when you find someone who thinks like you just feel like this instant connection with them, even if you have nothing else in
Yeah.
common, but you see the world,
Yeah.
you see the BS, you see through
Mhm.
the BS in this world, then you feel like, oh my God, like I just feel so close to this person immediately. So in one sense, it's much easier to build those kinds of friendships because when that conversation comes up, and it tends to come up in the first 10 minutes with most people. It does with me. I'm not sure how you are, Lucille, but like with me, with us, it comes up pretty fast. My husband has Asperger's, so there's no filter. You just whatever you
Yeah,
see
right.
comes out. And and once that is established and that we think the same way, then from there on, like the conversation just flows and you just feel very close to that
Absolutely.
person. So
Yeah.
I think while we're drifting away from a lot of people, I lost a lot of friends. As you know, I lost a lot of
Yeah.
friends, even family
Yeah.
members. People blocked me. They don't want to hear from me. And that's
Yeah.
absolutely fine. I have no worries about that at all. But at the same time, I've made a lot of friends, online
Yeah.
friends, or even in-person friends who I admire and love through all this that happened because all these events brought us close together. So I think
That's right.
there's a good side and there's a bad side to this.
Mhm.
Technology is definitely a very hard side because I mean it does, like, we would have never met if there's no
Yeah,
technology.
absolutely.
Facebook or
Absolutely. Yeah.
Instagram and social media, we would have never, how would we have ever met each other unless I was still in Toronto, then yes. But so it has a really good side, but we abuse it, and one way we think we have like fake friends, we have these friendships that are not real, and you think they're real, but they're not really real friendships. I learned that through the pandemic as well. But also, how do you stop people? Like when you see those families together, how do you get them to put the phone away? Like everyone's addicted, even grandpas, grandmas, they're all sitting there and they're not even talking. Or the saddest one, when you see the whole family together and grandma's sitting there all alone and everyone else is on the device, but not grandma, but usually grandma too. So they
Yeah.
got everybody. They put everybody in, even, with the games, with everything. Like the friend that I have here, she's almost 70 and she's playing on her phone all day. She got addicted to it. We're all addicted to some degree.
However, there are those of us who do prefer one-on-one conversation without checking our phones. And
Yes.
I've had those conversations. You just have to keep casting your net out wider and wider to find those people.
Yeah.
And it can be anywhere, anytime, as long as you are open to it. Like, for example, I had to learn over the course of my life to just talk to people. Didn't matter. It didn't matter if I was scared out of my wits to talk to them. I had to learn. And so now I'm good enough that I can talk to any stranger I meet.
But
And I
did you
can
struggle?
usually
You
find,
struggled with that, Lucille. I can't imagine you
yeah,
struggling.
no,
Really?
when I was very young, I had selective mutism, which meant that I only
Really?
spoke in the comfort of my own home with my
Wow.
parents, and
And
my
at
home was
school?
not comfortable.
At school you
At
didn't?
school, eventually, I painfully started talking to people, but with strangers, I would be a mute. I just could not get the words out of my
No way.
mouth.
Wow.
And so, when it became crucial for me to socialize, like as I got closer to my teens, I figured I had to figure out how to make friends. I had to figure out how to talk to people. And
Yeah.
so I taught myself how to do that. And so now it's, you and anybody, if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Yeah.
So I can talk to anybody. You observe and you find something in common,
Yeah.
and no matter how trivial it is, you can start a conversation about it, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
for example, I'm in the grocery store and I'm waiting for the checkout line to move, and there's a woman ahead of me, and I'm struck by her what she's wearing,
Mhm.
and I will say to her, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but you have a stunning outfit,
Uh-huh.
and you've put it together so well. I'm admiring you,
Mhm.
and you would be amazed how people, if it's a genuine compliment, people will drop everything and start talking to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really amazing, and
Absolutely.
a lot of people think that's cringy. Oh, isn't that a bit manipulative? You go around complimenting people. But if it's a genuine compliment, oh my goodness, people are hungry to be
Yes.
seen, to be heard, and
Absolutely.
to feel like somebody appreciates something they've done, right?
Yeah. Lucille, I did
Um,
the exact same thing today. I stopped a
oh,
lady on the street and I said, my God, I love your outfit. It was just amazing. And they light
yeah,
up,
yeah, they light up, absolutely. There is a guy in the UK who started doing this. I think he started it out as a prank or a comedic thing where he would literally, he'd put on a certain persona. He wasn't himself, he was a character. And he'd go out onto the street and have a video guy videotaping him. And he would stop people in the middle of the street and he would say, "Madam, you have a beautiful smile. Never stop smiling. You radiate goodness and joy whenever you smile." And he would literally do it in that kind of really dramatic way.
Yeah.
And people loved it.
Yeah. That's
And so
wonderful.
he continued to do that. In fact, psychologists were studying his technique. They
Yeah.
were doing research on this. And it would be amazing how he could get people to talk to him, to light up. And so he just continued doing that. Because he realized how much good that was bringing to people's lives. It may be the only positive thing that they hear for months about themselves,
That is so cool.
So I would say one thing is, don't ever be afraid to give a genuine compliment, even if it feels like you're afraid that the people are going to be put off by. No, it's quite the opposite. Most
Yeah.
people would love it, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's one way of doing it. Or, it's easy if you're in a social setting somewhere where, I don't know, you're at a lecture or something like that, and the lecturer has just made a really interesting point. You turn to the stranger next to you and say,
Mhm.
"Gee, I find that so interesting, don't you?" And you
Yeah.
start a discussion about it, right?
Yeah.
So, there are many, many, many ways to engage people, but they're usually very simple. It's usually
Yeah.
very simple, where you show an interest and you listen and you pay attention and you say something nice,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Absolutely. I love that. I'm just like you. I absolutely love that. And I love to see the smile on someone's face when you just compliment a random stranger. I think that's so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Another thing people can do, and I think this works, is get a puppy. We have a
Yeah.
new
Oh,
puppy,
very
and
good
I'm walking
technique.
around with Luna, and Luna loves everybody. So she has to go and every person she sees. So every single stranger has to stop and pet her, and she pees on them a little bit because she gets so excited. But when I go out for a walk, I'm just talking to random strangers nonstop.
Absolutely. And that is a brilliant technique. I have that issue as well with my dog. He loves everybody.
Uh-huh.
So, well, he loves other humans, right? So
Yeah.
you have to stop and talk. And it brings people like almost instant rapport. Like I
Yeah.
talk to people, I've had like half-hour conversations with people whom I know I would never be deep friends with.
Yeah.
But it's such a nice feeling to know that you can just connect lightly for half an hour because you're both walking your dogs, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
No,
So
that's
I
also
would
a
say
great thing.
the dog thing is great. Any
Mhm.
kind of shared interest, like again, volunteering,
Yeah.
going to your church social. If people go to church anymore, I don't know how many do. But any kind of activity where you're going to meet up with complete strangers
Yeah.
is really great.
It's really good.
I
I started bouldering recently, a couple of months ago.
Oh yes, I saw
So
your
it's
post
like a
on that.
whole new social network out there, because
Yeah.
it's like, when you're there, everyone's like giving you hints and talking and saying, hello, I've got a coach now. And, that's also a great way to meet. Like, I'm not saying go bouldering, obviously, but, joining a gym, joining a knitting group, or anything that is of interest to you. And there are also, conspiracy groups and all that. A lot of groups like that as well that discuss world issues. And you're more likely to find like-minded people there and stronger connections. And, and maybe trying to even reconnect with your own family, or like on a different level, and maybe having rules where everybody puts their phone away, like they have those baskets and it's like everybody puts their phone in the basket and let's all talk and just enjoy each other's company. And getting back to the basics, or going out into nature where there is no cell reception, right? And you have no choice.
Like finding a hiking group. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's, those people, if you go into a hiking group, they're all going to be like nature lovers, they'll be health conscious, and they're probably eating healthy. So you'll have a lot in common with them already, or I would anyway, like, most people would be able to relate to them. And that's a great way to meet new friends as well. And then
absolutely. Another, excuse me, another thing that's really popular among women, and there's been a burgeoning of it since the end of our, lockdowns, is book clubs.
Oh, yes.
And women who actually don't want to do them online anymore and really want to get together.
Yeah.
So in-person book clubs, in-person social networking of any sort, they're out there, and there's quite a group of a fairly large, I think, group of people in society who are craving in-person events.
Yes.
So
I have a friend in Hungary, and she does like these weekly women's circles.
Oh,
and
yeah.
They do all kinds of stuff, like meditation and ceremonies and all kinds of stuff. And that's a great way to get women. And when women get together, there's this really powerful energy, healing energy and everything.
Yes.
And that's also a great environment to make some friends and to make some connections. So I think there's a lot out there. I think we have more options now than ever before, and also online groups and stuff like that. So I think if you go out there and you look for different ways to find connections, I don't think it's impossible. I don't think we're robots. I don't think we're there yet, where we're like cyborgs.
Well, some of us are more than others.
Yeah, but those are not the people you're going to connect with. You're not going to
be looking for those people. You want.
No, but I think there's a huge movement now moving back into the opposite direction, because I think people are sick of being controlled by technology.
Yes.
I'm seeing libraries or like these cafes where everybody's disconnecting and reading books instead, and or talking to each other instead. So I think there's going to be a much bigger movement in this direction as well, because I think ultimately we need human connection in order to thrive. And
we absolutely do. To thrive as humans, we absolutely need human connection.
And I think people are realizing that, and we need the nature connection, we need the human connection. So I think there's going to be always a much bigger movement towards this. I think the more technology is taking over, is trying to take control over our lives, I think the more people are going to start pushing back. I hope so. I don't know what's going to happen with the children or the young people that are completely addicted. I don't know what's going to happen with them. But I think for our age group, there's definitely still hope.
Oh, I agree. Totally. Yes.
Okay.
So that was a wonderful, discussion. And if you feel that there's anything about what we've said that you would like to comment on or ask a question about, or you have an idea for another topic like this that you'd like us to discuss, we'd be very, very open to hearing from you. So you can leave a comment under this episode or DM either one of us on social media. Yes, so thank you, Lynn, very much for a very stimulating conversation. I hope a lot of you out there got some value out of this. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, share, comment, like, and know that we are here for you. And that if you have any life's dilemmas, anything that you need help with, please just send your questions along.
Thank you, guys. All the best to everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Please be aware that Lynn and I are here to provide insights, advice, stories that are for educational and entertainment purposes only. None of our content should be considered to be personal, medical, or mental health therapy. If you are experiencing a mental health or physical health challenge, please consult the appropriate healthcare specialist. We are here to provide the best possible content in an atmosphere of positive conversation and personal growth.